Welcome to Macabre Matters, where all matters of the macabre are discussed. From hauntings to legends, plagues to disasters, we have it all right here. Welcome to our third season, Macabre Across the Pond, where we will visit the 5 countries of the British Isles and bring their gruesome tales to you. This is the first episode of our Wales month. Known for its beauty and being the childhood home of the late Queen Elizabeth II, Wales is a country filled with mystery and magic. For centuries, a power struggle between England and Wales tore apart the land, staining it with the blood of thousands. Tonight, we will discuss the seat of one of these terrible fights. A story of treachery, bloodshed, and even an ogre. This castle is thought to be the inspiration behind one of the most famous events in George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, as well as the real-life inspiration for one of the most famous English bills of law. But that isn't all. Near this castle sits an inn steeped with dark spirits and injuries, with almost 200 souls that had been killed within its walls. Tonight, we are going to one of the most haunted towns in all of Wales, Abergavenny, to visit Abergavenny Castle and Skirrid Mountain Inn. Sume, which means hello in Welsh. For the love I have of the British Isles, I am sad to admit that my knowledge of Wales is extremely subpar, as you will find with how bad my pronunciations will be. Another is that I thought this whole time that Cardiff and Pembrokeshire were in England, and I have now recently learned they are Wales, and I am very sorry to all of Wales. So, I have been really enjoying this research for this episode and for my later episode that we will be doing later this month, because it was all just new information, so I got to be excited and really deep dive and rabbit hole into a bunch of different things. But now, I am going to put out a public apology from both me and Issi for all of our Welsh listeners. I looked up pronunciation guides for tonight. I sent pronunciation guides to Issi for her episodes as well. And we're going to try our hardest. But we're apologizing now for any name and place mispronunciations and the butchering you're going to hear from us. Now, with all of that out the way, it's going to be a lot of butchering, and I'm very sorry. Let's begin our tale of murder, betrayal, and centuries of bloodshed. Warning, this episode contains descriptions of cannibalism and child murder. Discretion is advised. We will begin our story with the town of Abergavenny. Found in southeast Wales, the site of Abergavenny was first settled by the Romans and called Gobanium. Then it was conquered and resettled by the Normans, who renamed the site to Abergavenny. Abergavenny was an important tactical site. It rested between the Gavenny and Irk rivers in the valley between the Black Mountains and the Brecon Beacons. Having control of Abergavenny meant you had control of passage to Western Wales. In the valley below the castle formed the small market town of Abergavenny that still exists to this day. In the 11th century, the first castle was built on the site of Abergavenny Castle. This first structure was a moat and bailey built of wood by Lord Hamlin de Bullen in 1087. In 1100, the wooden keep was replaced by a stone structure. But less than 100 years after its initial construction, Abergavenny Castle would become the seat of one of the worst cases of betrayal and treason in Welsh history. In the 1160s or 1170s, depending on your source, the Lord of Abergavenny was named Henry Fitzmiles. As a Norman, Fitzmiles was tasked with keeping the oppressed Welsh at bay. During battle, Fitzmiles was killed by Cecil ap Dyfnwalt, the Lord of Gwent Uchud. Henry had no male heirs, and like the majority of medieval Europe, his daughters could not inherit his titles. Instead, his daughter Bertha's husband inherited it instead. His name was William de Braose, and the easiest name in this whole video. Now, when it comes to William de Braose, history gets very confusing, because we have multiple William de Braoses, about 4, in the history of Abergavenny. Like Fitzmiles, William was a Norman baron. The following story is sometimes attributed to the William that married Bertha, who's William III of Bamburgh, and other times it's attributed to the son of William and Bertha, also named William, who's the 4th Earl of Bamburgh. So it gets really confusing. I was ungodly confused. It seems like the majority of stories say that this next event I'm telling you was done by the 4th Earl of Bamburgh, which is the William who is the son of William and Bertha. Have I lost you yet?
No.
Oh, good. So now we will discuss William de Braose, 4th Earl of Bamburgh, who may be the ogre of Abergavenny, or his father was, but either way, one of them is a terrible human being. He was born in the 1140s, this is for the 4th Earl, and married his wife Mathilde de Saint-Valery. She is from France, if you couldn't tell. She also, in history, is known by the name Maud de Braose. They were married in 1166. The couple ended up having 16 children, the majority who would either own their own castles or marry into other aristocratic families. The Welsh chieftains hated William de Braose for impeding on their lands, and William hated them for killing his father-in-law, Henry Fitzmiles. But for Abergavenny, William was actually a solid ruler, and he expanded the castle, adding in what is the famous curtain wall that you can still see part of today. But in 1175, William made a decision that would make his name go down in infamy. In Welsh custom, Christmas is a time to put aside your differences. Parties meet up on this day in a truce to talk out and air differences. William decided to do just this for Christmas of 1175. He sent out invitations to multiple Welsh lords, inviting them to Abergavenny Castle for a Christmas feast and to hash out all their differences. A majority of the lords, these Welsh chieftains, they were skeptical of William's intentions, so some of them just flat out refused. But one very influential Lord of Gwent, Cecil ap Dyfnwal, agreed to attend, and with him many more lords followed suit. If only the lords knew William's true intentions. Christmas Day arrived, and Cecil, his son Joffrey, and the other lords arrived at Abergavenny Castle. As is customary, all the lords left their weapons outside before entering the Great Hall. All the men entered, but a feast was not what was waiting for them. Inside stood William de Braose with his men, armed and ready. They surprised the Welsh lords, slaughtering them all. The walls and floors were stained with the blood of the fallen Welsh princes. But this wasn't enough vengeance for William for the death of his uncle. Cecil killed someone of William's family, so William had to return the favor. William and his men quickly got on their horses and rode to Castle Arnault, which was Cecil's keep. There, he and his men razed the castle to the ground, kidnapping Cecil's wife and killing his other son, who was only about 7 years old. By 1177, all remains of Castle Arnault were gone. To this day, it is just an agricultural field. William took control of all of Cecil's land, as well as that of the other lords he had butchered. This act of betrayal has gone down in history as the Christmas Massacre of Abergavenny. and William was given the nickname the Ogre of Abergavenny. Surviving families of those that fell in the massacre wreaked their own vengeance on the de Browse family by destroying Abergavenny in 1182 by Hwyl ap Lorulf, Lord of Caerleon. William was a court favorite and loyally fought beside King Richard I in France. And if you don't know who Richard I is, he's also known as Richard Lionheart. Richard I died in 1199, and his brother, King John II, came to power. William quickly made his allegiance to John known, and King John awarded him greatly. William was already the lord of Normandy, Bramber, and Brecon, but King John expanded this to include Clogher and Radnor in Wales, and the Kingdom of Limerick in Ireland. King John's favoritism to William continued for multiple years, helping land many of his children their prestigious marriages and lands. In 1202, William was in France alongside King John. John's mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine, was captured by John's nephew, Arthur of Brittany. We're getting a lot of names in this section. So, Eleanor of Aquitaine had two sons, Richard I, John II.
Yep.
Richard's dead, John's now the king. John has a nephew from one of his other multitude of siblings, whose name is Arthur. Arthur is from Brittany, which is in France. They're fighting in France right now. This is around we're getting close to 100 years wartime.
Oh, Jesus.
John and Arthur met on the battlefield in Mirabeau, where William captured Arthur. By 1203, Arthur was dead. It's believed that King John was the one to have him killed, possibly tortured to death. It is also believed that William de Browse was present for it all. And he kept quiet about these atrocities he watched King John commit to his own nephew. And because of this, that is why he got as many lands and titles as he did. King John rewarded William's silence by giving him 3 extra castles: White Castle, Grosmouth, and Skinfrith. But William's time at the top was drawing near its end as the king's temper became more and more erratic. By 1208, which is about 5 years later, King John no longer favored William. And no one really knows to this day why. He kind of just flipped a switch, kind of like King Henry did with his wives. This is what we think. Based on historians, they think it was because the amount of debt that William owed the king. Because William fell into debt with his control of Limerick, and he didn't run Ireland that well. And essentially, the king had to buy Limerick back for him because the Irish revolted against him. So they think that one of these things is that the amount of money the king had to give him for him to get his lands back from Ireland, the Irish lands, was a very large amount, and the king was fed up. The other reason speaks more to the king's mental health. Around this time, King John became extremely paranoid. He thought the lords and the barons were planning on taking him down. To soothe this growing paranoia, King John demanded that each baron was required to give him at least one hostage to guarantee their loyalty. So you had to send your sons, your heirs, to go live with the king so that the king knew you would be loyal, because if you did anything to test the king, your kid was right there and he would kill them. When William was asked to send his son, also named William to add to the Williams, as a hostage, Matilda stood up to the king and she screamed, "I will not deliver my sons to your lord King John, for he foully murdered his nephew Arthur, whom he should have cared for honorably." She said this to a messenger from the king. And William kind of looked at her like, Did you just fucking say that? Yes, there's many Williams. It's just like, did you really just fucking say that to the messenger for the actual crazy-ass king?
Yes.
Yes, she did. She did not care. She said straight to their face. And Arthur was still a very touchy subject for King John, so when he heard of the de Brow's refusal and Matilda's comment, he demanded that all of them be seized. William and his family ran to Ireland for safety. 2 years later, King John followed William to Meath, Ireland, where he had been hiding. To try to come to a solution, King John demanded that William hand over all his lands and pay the crown 40,000 marks. Then they would be forgiven for Matilda's comment about him killing Arthur and how she wouldn't let her sons be near him. While William could have given over all of his lands, all of his titles, he didn't have 40,000 marks. During discussion with King John, Matilda and their oldest son William tried to escape Ireland to go to either Matilda's home country of France or at least get to Scotland, who were allies of France. They were caught in Galloway and they were sent to King John for trying to escape. The 40,000 marks were now up to 50,000 marks, so William could get his family back. So his lands, his title, 50,000, we don't torture your family to death. Well, he still couldn't afford it. And so he fled to France, where he died in hiding in 1211. He never came back to Wales. But the story of the de Brow's family sadly doesn't end with William's death. Matilda and her son William were taken to King John, who threw them into a dungeon at either Corfe or Windsor Castle. Mother and son remained trapped here for weeks with no food or water. Eventually, King John sent someone to check on them, and what that man saw was heartbreaking. This is actually like a quote from the time. It was written down by a witness. On the 11th day, the mother was found dead between her son's legs, still upright but leaning back against her son's chest as a dead woman. The son, who was also dead, sat upright, leaning against the wall as a dead man. So desperate was the mother that she had eaten her son's cheeks. When William de Braose, who was in Paris, heard this news, he died soon afterwards, many asserting that it was through grief. Matilda and her son were emaciated, and in a bout of starved insanity, Matilda began to chew on the face of her beloved son, trying to stay alive. This is not the end of the story of William and Matilda, though. The couple, not the mother and son. In fact, Matilda lives on to this day in Welsh folklore as a giantess and brutal warrior woman. It is said that Matilda built Hay Castle in one night by carrying the stones in her skirts. In 1198, this is true, she stood against the Welsh and defended Payne's Castle until help could arrive. The folklore part is that she defended it all alone. Matilda became an icon of a powerful woman who bowed to no man, not even the king. The de Braose family did not lie down and take this abuse from the king. The next son in line, Giles, fled to France in 1208, but returned to Wales in 1214 to take back his family's land from King John. During this time, King John's reign was falling apart. The nobles did not trust him, and the death of William and his family caused so much civil unrest that the kingdom was on the brink of civil war. Giles bought back all of his family's land. You know, the ones that the king demanded 50,000 marks for? Giles paid 6,000. And he got everything back.
Jesus Christ.
King John offered his form of an apology to the de Braose family by allowing the daughter of William and Matilda, Margaret, she married into Meath, Ireland. So that's where they were hiding out, was with her. She was allowed to build a religious house in the memory of her fallen father, mother, and brother, and is in Ireland right now. In 1215, the nobles finally forced King John to sign away his absolute power and to give rights to the people of England. This document was called the Magna Carta. And the right to trial by jury and the right for inheritance to not be taken from a woman are tied back to the atrocities that King John implemented on the de Braose family. So we can thank this medieval Norman family for some of the rights we take for granted today. But now, let's return to Abergavenny, which we left off at being destroyed in 1182 as retribution for the Christmas Massacre. It was rebuilt in 1190 out of local red sandstone. For the next few years, the castle changed hands multiple times throughout this English-Welsh rebellions. Again, the castle was destroyed in 1233 by Richard Marshall during a revolt against Henry III. You're going to hear this a lot. It's common to destroy castles and keeps that are located in tactical locations to stop your enemies from being able to use them against you. So, finally, the castle landed in the hands of the Hastings family, who expanded the castle, adding extra towers from the years 1295 to 1314. When the final Lord Hastings died without a male heir, the castle was passed to the Beauchamp family. The Beauchamps were also not well liked by Abergavenny. They tried to hang 3 townspeople in front of the castle, which is never a way to make townspeople like you. So, in 1402, that led to a riot. During this riot, the townspeople locked Lady Jeanne Beauchamp up in the castle and freed all the prisoners. Only 2 years later, in 1404, the town of Abergavenny was seized by Owen Glendower. The only structure to not be plundered was Abergavenny Castle, which withstood Glendower's siege. All good things must come to an end, though. During the English Civil War, King Charles had the entire castle destroyed in order to stop the Roundheads from being able to capture its strategic place. The castle ruins remained abandoned until the second Lord of Abernathy, Henry Neville, built a hunting lodge on the site in 1819. The hunting lodge still stands today and is the site of the Abergavenny Museum. The ruins are open to the public to walk through, where you can see the remains of the original Motte and Bailey design, William de Braose's curtain wall, and the Hastings Towers. Strangely, for a history bathed in blood and betrayal and hatred, with stories filled of despair and fear, there are no paranormal stories associated with the Castle Museum Arch grounds. I looked hard, and there was nothing. So now, it's my goal to bring Issi and I all the way to Abergavenny to see if we can feel any of Abergavenny's bloody past.
Oh, God. You probably will have a feeling.
Yes, I will. But don't worry. I'm not going to leave you with no ghosts this episode. So, I will now talk about the most haunted building in all of Wales that happens to be located near Abergavenny in the town of Llanfihangel Crewcorny. It is called the Skirrid Mountain Inn, and you can find many reports of its hauntings as well as paranormal shows visiting its humble site, including the Great British Show Most Haunted. The building that currently stands today was constructed in approximately the 1600s, with analysis taken by the Glamorgan Gwent Archaeological Trust. There are reports that an older pub sat on the site of Skirrid construction, but those have yet to be confirmed. On Skirrid's own website, they claim they are actually 900 years old and the oldest pub of Wales. The name Skirrid Mountain Inn comes from the Skirrid Mountains nearby, which Welsh legend states were split in two by a lightning strike upon Jesus' death. The mountains are known as Holy Mountains, with a chapel built near the summit. According to the legends, the Skirrid Inn saw multiple executions during the medieval and Tudor time. This is a bit difficult as it wasn't built until the 1600s. So I tend to believe the theory set forth by M.B. Ford, that if any of the stories about executions are true, that they happened in an earlier inn located on the same spot that was later replaced with the current one we see today. Ford states that the road it is located on leads to a nearby pilgrimage site called Llanthony Priory that was constructed in 1108, which would match the suspected age of 900 years old. So it kind of fits with the things. We just think it's a different building.
Okay.
But regardless of when the inn actually came into being, the pub has been witness to much of southeastern Wales' dark history. The first major legend associated with Skirrid Inn is with the Welsh hero Owen Glendower, stating that this is where he stayed and planned his attack on Abergavenny Castle. The second major legend is associated with a man named Judge Jeffreys. This judge was nicknamed the Hanging Judge. I think you can figure out how he got his nickname. It claims that Jeffreys held court on the first floor of the inn, where he sentenced about 180 people to die by hanging for a multitude of different crimes. The smallest of which ended up being sheep theft. People were hung for stealing a sheep. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. The owners of Skirrid Inn claim that you can still see the rope marks from where Judge Jeffreys hung those he found guilty. They also have a room they claim was a prison cell. They claim the final case of capital punishment occurred during the years of Oliver Cromwell in the 1650s. So, based on the years they think the building was built, maybe those end executions, they really did happen in the current inn. A fact known about the history of Skirrid Inn is associated with World War II and a brutal attack that happened to a man. He was cycling along the Royal Pass and he ended up cutting off a fellow cyclist. This cyclist was so pissed off that he got cut off on a bike that he followed the man and then screamed to the patrons at Skirrid Inn to stop the man because he was a German in the middle of World War II. So, they did what he said. They stopped him and they all beat the crap out of that dude. Thinking that he was a German spy who was in Wales. Well, it turned out that man was not only not German, he was fully Welsh, and the police sergeant's nephew. Also, during the war, a prisoner of war camp was located near the inn, so that also ties into why they thought he could have been a German. So whether or not the tales of execution and Owen Glendower being at the end are true, there is no doubt that something is haunting the Skirrid Mountain Inn. Reports claim poltergeist activity, sharp temperature drops, and disembodied laughter heard in empty rooms. Shadow figures and thumping sounds are heard on the upper floors. A historical website that focuses more on facts associated with Skirrid Mountain Inn, that's where I found all my World War II facts, they even speak of one of the legends. And this is of a ghost named Fanny Price. She was a Victorian woman who worked at the Skirrid Mountain Inn and died of tuberculosis at the age of 35 and is buried nearby. Visitors claim that Fanny is one of the friendly spirits to make themselves known at the Skirrid. Now, it's not an episode that I'm hosting unless I watch a paranormal show and tell you about their experiences at the location. So, for today, I watched the British television show Most Haunted, whose episode aired on April 29, 2003 in the UK. So I'm going back and watching an old school one. This was an interesting throwback to some of our earliest ghost hunting shows, but unlike the earlier American shows, there was less screaming, Zach Bagans, as well as less focus on the overnight investigation as a whole. Instead, they focused more on the psychic that they brought with them and his walk through what he was feeling and then comparing it to the historical record. From their overnight, they caught a door opening on camera as well as the burglar alarm going off in the middle of the night, even though the owners never set the alarm on because they knew the crew would be there. So one thing I really liked about their investigation and their show is that throughout they were pointing out historical evidence that backed the psychics' claims as well as their experiences. So this made them feel like a much more credible show compared to some that we have today. They also had a parapsychologist review their footage at the end, and he gave a full critique of their investigation where he commented both on the positive and negative aspects, like things they could have done better. And they kept it in their show. So that gave me a little bit better feeling about them. Overall, it was a fun watch, and you can see the full episode on YouTube. And that is Abergavenny Castle and the Skirrid Mountain Inn, and I apologize for the butchering of these names.
It's fine. I feel like I'm not gonna do any better.
You don't have... Which one broke me? Which one did I just break down on? It was like, ooh-woo, ooh-woo, ooh-walk. I'm so sorry if anyone, this is your actual last name. Oh, frick, what was it? I have a really long script. It's going to take me a second to find it again. Oh god, yeah, it was this thing. I'm laughing looking at it, knowing that means I have to try to say it again. Okay. Ook Code is what I ended up going with because I gave up. It's UWCHCOED.
You did. Like I said, I probably would have said U code anyway.
Yeah, but W's are an ooh sound. So it's like ooh, ooh,
ooh,
co-id. So I went ooh, code.
Okay.
And I went good enough. But I was laughing by that point because I also had to say duff and wool before that.
Yes. Yeah, you did break on that.
That one was hard, man. Alright, I saw you were actually taking notes. Thank you for taking notes. I warned you it was a long script.
Yeah. So, how many times was Abergavenny Castle, like, destroyed? Because I kind of counted, like, up to 4 or 5.
Let's see. Abergavenny was first made out of, their first was whatever the Romans had. We don't know what it was. It was first constructed as a wooden one in the 11th century, about 1087. It was then switched to being stone in 1100. So the first time it fell was probably because of the Christmas Day Massacre. So that would have been 1182 for the first fall. And then it got reconstructed. Then it switched hands a bunch of times, but it didn't, like, full-blown fall apart.
Okay.
So then the next one would have been destroyed in 1233 by Richard Marshall during a revolt against Henry III.
Okay.
And then the Hastings family rebuilt it and fixed it up. And then it went to the Beauchamps, and then even though they got raided and they had a riot, it didn't fall through either of those. It actually survived.
Okay.
And then English Civil War, King Charles had it, like, dismantled. So at least 3 times it fell and has been in some variation of a rebuild. Now it's just like the ruins. You can see parts of the keep. You can see parts of the curtain wall that William de Braose put in. You can see parts of the towers, and you can see part of the Great Hall where the massacre happened. And then the actual, like, hunting lodge that the Neville family put in is located there as well, and that's now the museum.
Okay.
So it's always had some variation of building going on it since, like, 1087.
And okay, I have a feeling the massacre from 1182, I was kind of getting Red Wedding vibes from that, because I know you mentioned... Yeah.
It is not the event that George R. R. Martin says inspired Red Wedding. We are going to cover it. It's in our Scotland one. I'm doing that episode too. But when I was reading, I was just like, okay, I know he says the Scottish event is what inspired the Red Wedding, but this is literally just the Red Wedding.
Yes.
Like, the only thing missing is a wedding. But everything else was the same. So, I think, like, I personally think it's a blend of the Scottish event that I'll eventually talk about later in this season, as well as this event. And also it's 1175, not 1182. 1182 is the Retribution.
Okay, I got my years mixed up, okay.
It's cool. There was so many years and so many Williams.
So many Williams.
I spent an hour on research because sources started getting confused on which of the Williams... They know for sure the fourth Earl of Bramber was the one who his wife and son were trapped by King John, and they are the ones that inspired those sections of the Magna Carta. The argument on is he also the Ogre of Abergavenny, or was that his father?
Okay.
And it gets confusing.
Yeah, I can see where it gets confusing, where it's kind of like, okay, this William is that William, but that William may be this one? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, according to the actual Abergavenny website, the father is the one who did the, Christmas Massacre, and then the other William is the one for the Magna Carta. But for a bunch of other websites, they said, no, it's the same person.
Okay.
Either way, the family had a very colorful century.
Sounds like it. Alright, so Joffrey. Who is he the son of?
Cecil.
Okay. And that name just popped out to me because I just wrote down the name Joffrey is cursed.
Yep. Yeah, I thought... that's also why I was like, okay, it has... This one had to inspire. That's one of the characters' names.
Right.
I know you're claiming that it was the Scottish event that truly inspired you, but this one has a dude named Joffrey who gets killed in the Red Wedding, even though I know Joffrey dies in the Purple Weddings. Is that a spoiler alert? That show's been out forever.
It's been out forever. If it's a spoiler, sorry. If we are wrong on what particular color wedding it is, correct us.
Oh, no, I know it. He died in the Purple Wedding, and the Starks, majority of them were killed in the Red. I got that memorized. I used to love that show, not the season 8. Season 8 sucked. But,
yeah, season 8, we don't talk about.
We don't talk about it. It doesn't exist. But no, I know that show. I know those books.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, oh, are you sure it's the Scottish event? Like, I haven't sat down and, like, really deep read the Scottish one to see how much it's closer. But even other people point out, they're like, pretty sure the Abergavenny event is closer to what ended up happening in the book.
That's what it sounds like to me because, yeah.
Yeah, like,
too many similarities.
The only difference was it was a Christmas Day feast instead of a wedding feast. That was the only difference.
Yeah. Alright, so it was Matilda who was chewing on her son's cheeks in the tower? Okay.
Yeah.
Try.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was the only woman I talked about this whole episode, except for Eleanor of Aquitaine for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was tragic what happened to them.
Mm-hmm. And that one is, historically, yes, that's a fact. They were starved to death by King John.
Jesus Christ.
The only thing is, we don't know which of the 2 towers it's in.
Oh.
'Cause, 2 towers, 2 castles. Because he definitely didn't keep records of him starving a family out. But, like, we know they were starved out. We don't know which of the 2.
Right.
But that is why also they now were like, for the Magna Carta, they're like, king can't just be judge, jury, and executioner and, like, throw whoever he wants into towers willy-nilly because they said something that hurt his feelings. Because that's what happened is Matilda made the comment of, you can't take my son because you couldn't even honorably keep your nephew alive.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why that happened. And so that's why, that's why they were all imprisoned and had all this shit happen, is because she made that comment and got him upsetty spaghetti.
And this just shows how sensitive those with J names are. Or that just shows how sensitive King John II was, because...
I mean, have you seen the Disney movie for Robin Hood, where, like, King John is the one who's like, you upset me! Yes! And I'm like, oh my god. Like, at first I was like, man, they are, like, babyifying this man. Then I did this episode and I went, oh no, that was so accurate. He is such a whiny man.
Yes! In every adaptation I have seen regarding, like, Robin Hood with Prince John, King John, and King Richard Lionheart, John is a little bitch baby.
Oh yeah, that bitch baby got the Magna Carta made because a woman hurt his feelings. So he starved her to death.
Typical man.
He would be one of those fedora gentlemen if he was alive today. And you know it's true.
Yes, that's why I'm vomiting. Ugh.
Yes, I will now. I will now Photoshop a picture of King John wearing a fedora, and it's going to keep showing throughout this episode.
That's just gonna be a new meme that we just spread. Like, whenever we're disgusted, just toss that.
King John in a fedora.
Okay, about the spirits at the ghosts at the end. There was only one ghost?
No, there's multiple. That was just the only one. Okay. So the episode, they had a few others that they claimed the names of. Yeah. But, like, some claim that the judge is there. Some claimed, like, the psychic claimed that he was actually touching into a man who was hung by Jeffries for stealing sheep. I just can't remember the dude's name. But, like, there are reports that many of the men who died are the people who were killed by Jeffries are there. That Jeffries is there himself. The people who used to work there. So, like, Fanny Price, apparently the whole Price family was very involved with Skirrid Inn. They weren't the owners or anything. They were just, like, you know, like those family restaurants where you hire your family friends and then multitudes of them are now working there. It was that. The Price family was the family friends who worked at the Skirrid Mountain. And so, like, that's why Fanny's still there. And the psychic was saying that, like, 4 of her family members might be haunting there too. And there may be, like, some German or some Italians or something, because of the fact that there's the prisoner of war camp was right across. The way they said it was across the street from the inn.
Okay.
And that's also why it was a worry when the dude said, stop him, he's a German. Is that there really was it wasn't just like, ooh, paranoia. No, there really was a prisoner of war camp right there, so there was a possibility of a German escaping.
Yeah, that poor guy.
Yeah, that dude did not deserve to get beat up.
No.
There was no, like, report on what happened to the dude who accused him of being a German to beat him up for cutting him off while cycling. But I'm assuming the uncle was not very happy. And I don't think that dude got away lightly for doing that.
Probably not. And, like, look, I hate bicyclists as much as the next person, because
they were both on bikes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's what it was. It was 2 cyclists, and that he said that the man, the sergeant's nephew, cut him off on the bike, and so he followed him until they were closer to civilization, which happened to be Skirrid Mountain Inn, and that's when he yelled it to get the people who were, like, you know, chilling outside of Skirrid Mountain Inn, because it's also a pub, so they also were drunk, to help catch the dude on the bike so that he could beat the shit out of him for cutting him off. but the only way the other people would help is if he claimed they were a escaping German.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 1940s Wales.
It was a wild place.
Yep, so, like, that one for sure happened, but the man did not die. He survived his beating. So, like, so that dude's probably not haunting Skirrid, but who knows, there could be victims of the prisoner of war camp who do haunt it. Because I couldn't find reports on how many people probably died in a prisoner of war camp. But also, I didn't look it up.
It's fine. It's fine.
I was about to say something because I thought, ooh, I forgot to say this, and I just remembered it's for my later episode. So, ignore me.
You're just like, oh, never mind.
Everything ties together so much. When that's what I've learned doing the Welsh section, is everything's tying together with the English section, or I know what you're going to be covering, so they all tie together in some way, and I'm just like, Wales feels like that small town vibe. Like,
yes, because this...
It's like everything is like somehow going to connect to each other, even if like I'm doing Southeast Wales, and I don't remember if you were doing Western Wales or Northern Wales for your two. I think Powys is Northern, if I remember right.
Yeah,
yes,
Powys is
that's
Northern.
your note. We are eventually covering Powys, and by we I mean Issi.
Yeah.
So like we're not doing like, oh, we all did Abergavenny, in which case of course they would tie together. But, like, no, we're picking different regions, but they still somehow will tie to each other.
And we don't find that out until we do our research.
The
majority of the time.
Yeah. So, like, it's really interesting that I find that more than when we did the England episodes. Is, like...
Oh, yeah.
England can have that separation where they don't tie together that much. And, like, I'm pretty sure we stayed in London for the England episode. Everything was either in London or near London, but none of it tied together.
Yeah.
But here, we're doing opposite ends of the country, and they are still tying together. So, like, I found that interesting about Wales, is that it has that small town feel, but make it a country. I forgot to show this. This is my grandfather's.
Aww.
It is a Welsh drinking glass from when he visited Wales, and yes... There is Welsh written on it.
Can you read it?
Let's try. Llangollen. I think. Llangollen. 2 L's makes it a thul sound.
Okay. That sounds about right to me.
Llangollen. I feel like I'm speaking with a lisp, but yes.
Okay. The man that left his... family to the king. I just wrote
William.
I only have one thing.
That was William the Browse.
One thing to say. Yeah, one thing to say to that. Fuck you to the family, I guess.
They were separated from him. Remember? He was distracting the king and they tried to run. They were captured away from him. So there was nothing he could do, and so he ran the rest of the way to France.
Okay.
Because if he got captured too, then, you know, their 15 other kids probably would get screwed somehow.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because this king was very petty. So he essentially, from my research, William, the one who ran, the reason he ran is he was planning on coming back, but with forces. He was planning on getting the money together and either A, coming back with forces to get rid of King John, or B, having enough of the 50k marks to save his family. But then while he is living in exile trying to get this together, he gets word that his wife and his son were starved to death by the king, and he died of a broken heart.
Gotcha. Okay. That part I heard. I was just...
Yeah. No, it was the, I can't help you if I too am dead, so I'm going to run.
One of those situations. Okay, I got it now.
Yeah.
Alright.
Any other questions, or do you feel like... Because I know that one was 1 long and 2 really confusing because of the names.
No, I think I pretty much absorbed.
Yeah. Just so you know, I am dragging you to both Skirrid and Abergavenny. Because I think it's just weird that Abergavenny has 0 stories.
I know, it's like, and even though it's just the ruins left there, I feel like there's got to be some things still in that ground.
Because I've been to ruins in Ireland that are known for ghost stories.
Yeah.
That were destroyed and sacked by, like, William, wow, I'm stuck on William now, can't you tell? That were sacked by Henry VIII and everything, and I think I will be covering them when we get to Ireland, because I had a paranormal experience there. But, like, there's other places, and I'm pretty sure I've also been to a Scottish one before, years ago, that also is known for paranormal stories, but it's in ruins. So, like, there are a bunch of different places in the British Isles that are currently in a state of ruin, but are still known for their paranormal stories. They have stories attached. Okay. Except Abergavenny, and I'm like, it had one of the biggest massacres in Welsh history.
Yes, there has to be something.
Like, I would understand not the mother and son, maybe they're haunting either Windsor Castle or Corfe Castle, wherever they died. Like, I would understand them not being there, but I'm like, there has to be, like, even just a residual energy from the massacre.
There has to be.
Or, like, the fact that it got associated with almost every single damn war up until the Civil War. Like, there has to be some type of history haunting it. Like, energy haunting it. And it's located between 2 rivers, and it's built of natural sandstone.
Yeah. Unless people just go there and don't mention the war.
Don't mention the war! Sorry. You can't get close to a Faulty Towers reference with me. You know this.
I know, that's why I did it.
Terrible person. Maybe people are just going there and they're not, like, looking for it.
Maybe, that could be it too.
Like, but again, like, a lot of the, like, rundown ruins, you don't have to look for it. You'll have the experience. I don't know, but I want to go there and see why is it that no one is reporting experiences of Abergavenny, because I'm like, it is so chock full of history. It has to have some shit. So, yeah, we're gonna go there. Eventually, when we get money!
Yes! Give us money.
Good time to plug the Patreon. Currently, if we get to 15 patrons, we're going to do a giveaway where you can get one of our sweaters for free.
Yes.
So yeah, go join that, and that money goes towards torturing Issi in various haunted locations.
Yeah. Gonna need that for a creepy sock vacation.
Yeah, it's the money for the creepy sock vacation from the torture I put her through.
Okay.
Any final questions for me?
No, I think I'm ready for outro time.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to Macabre Matters. This episode was written and hosted by me, Kalee. My research was sourced from Britannica, Great Castles and Medieval Heritage, Abergavenny Castle, Dictionary of Irish Biography and Time Ref, William de Browse, History, The Interesting Bits, Maud de Browse, Magna Carta, William de Browse and Maud, Skirrid Inn, Haunted Happenings, History Point, and Most Haunted, Skirrid Mountain Inn. Special thanks to my co-host, Issi, for joining me in tonight's episode. If you have enjoyed listening to us, please give the show a review, leave a comment, or share our show with your friends. We can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Overcast, YouTube, or wherever else you enjoy listening to your podcasts. You can also join our Patreon. Members of our Patreons get shoutouts and videos, can request topics, and receive special live episodes with us, as well as entrance into our special giveaways that we'll be running. Link to our Patreon is in the description. If you have any questions or comments, email us at macabremattersofficial@gmail.com. Also, if you want to get to know us better, please follow us on Instagram and Threads at Macabre Matters Official, YouTube Macabre Matters Podcast, and like us on Facebook at Macabre Matters. You can also join our Discord server where you can talk and hang out with us. All of these All of these links are in the description. Music you are listening to is Winter Breath by Adrian von Ziegler.
Thank you, and have a delightfully grim evening.
Nosta. We will begin our story with the town of Abergavenny. Found in southeast Wales, the site of Abergavenny. I realized I made up that first time.
I was about to say, what?
I don't know what Abergavenny is. It's Abergavenny. I don't know. I'm going crazy. In the 11th century, the first castle was built on the modern site of the Abergavenny Castle. This first structure was a moat and bailey, built of wood by Lord Hamlin de Bouillon. This first structure was a moat and bailey built of wood by Lord Hamlin de Bouillon. I'm not even on the Welsh yet! This is French! Cecil Op Duffin All. Say it with confidence this time. Cecil at Duffin Wall. I'm gonna be putting them all on the screen as well. So when I butcher it, they can just read, I'm not done this sentence.
I'll just mute myself. So that I'm laughing doesn't distract you.
Every time you laugh, it distracts me so bad. Okay, here we go. During battle, Fitzmiles was killed by Cecil ap Duffinville, the Lord of Gwent. Code. There's so many vowels next to each other. I'm crying. Ook code. Ook code. We're going with ook code. Alright, we're going to retry this terrible sentence. I think I'm crying. During battle, Fitzmiles was killed by Cecil ap Doof. That's the wrong letter. During battle, Fitzmiles was killed by Cecil ap Duffinwold, the Lord of Gwent Ukud. Henry had no man. I sound like I'm being fucking tortured. I'm struggling so bad right now. Oh my god, your face is so red. How many tries will it take me to get through one sentence? This script's 8 pages long.
It's fine. When you go to edit, just be like, look, Izzy's just forever dying listening to me.
I think that last one was my best, but I was then laughing at the fact I sound like I was hostage trying to get that out. Okay. I'm not reattempting that sentence, I'm just gonna keep going.
Let's just keep going.
In the town of Planville, Hangle, Slanville Crew Corny. Slanville Crew Corny. I think I got through that one easier than the others. The first major late. Why can't I say that? That's an English word. The first major. I keep wanting. No, I keep wanting to say legion, and I'm trying to say legend. That's why I keep pausing, because I keep going, the first major legion. The Welsh is breaking me. I can't do English anymore either.